So I realized we didn't actually go through this deck, although some may say we don't really have anything to go through, but I just really wanted to, because I'm still trying to do DivineZ updates for everybody, and I was like, damn, I completely forgot that we even had a first Keter Protaganist. Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Mr. here. Today I'm back to cover Sword Saint Night Dragon Gramgrace in DivineZ. Now, Gramgrace hasn't gotten DivineZ support, at least not yet. He's in that very weird zone with Fafnir where he's like, is he counted as something in the anime? Is he counted as a collab boss? Nobody knows at this point. Fafnir at least got some indirect support from DBT08 and DBT03. Some of the comments and rares actually helped him very well. They even gave him a best harvest clone. But Gramgrace actually not really, strangely. And that's really sad because Gramgrace is one of my favorite bosses in terms of design, and frankly, I respect a lot of Gramgrace players. They're really cool. The thing is that right now he's fallen on hard times, and we are therefore needing to rely on Keter Pile, or the act of playing generics in Keter Sanctuary. Now, a lot of you don't actually know this, but I technically invented Order Keter, because the first ever guy who started playing Wisdom of the Beginning in Keter Sanctuary was me with Majesty Lord Blaster. I'll even put a link in the description below for that Majesty Lord Blaster video, so nobody can say, oh, you're lying. No, it's there. I did this in 2022. Where were you in 2022? But anyways, we are still going to end up doing that. A lot of this deck hasn't really changed since the Stand Up Deckset. In fact, not really at all. Most of the significant support is attainable outside the deck, which is a good and bad thing. And they also reprinted it again in triple drive booster. I don't get it. Fernvale has like what, 4 printings? Like this is technically Keter Sanctuary's cheapest pile deck, and it's even cheaper than Rezile because it's literally just 2 guys, one of which is a common and a double rare. You don't even need to buy him at the highest rarity, which is of course the FFR. If you played the Nintendo version, then you'll get this one. But yeah, it's just so strange to me that this deck is technically the cheapest Keter Sanctuary pile deck ever, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to cover him. So yeah, I still think this deck is pretty interesting. I do like this deck a lot. I've played it in recent time even. It even has an interesting Shiranui matchup because you can actually just play two attacks from the center column, and then Shiranui runs out of attack targets unless he manages to go one subsequent turn before, then he can use Genkai and stuff. But if not, he kind of can beat down. Gramgrace also has a lot of persona-based focus, which means he's pretty good on turn 4. If you build the deck and the board correctly, you can technically kill people very fast. So let's move into this fabled right deck. So obviously we start off with the energy generator. I don't think I need to explain this. Link in the description below for my DivineZ Explain video and my energy explain. Yeah, it's really all the same stuff that you've come to know. So yeah. Our grade 0, we obviously have to play Wingull Brave because we want to play Marin, and then we'll move into Blaster Duck. This right line is a very generic right line in the sense that you use this mainly for the grade 2 gaming of Blaster Duck. It's a card from 2021, and this guy still cannot leave Keter Sanctuary because of how much versatility it gives it. Early game removal, twin drive, it's just insanely good. Marin can't really do much because you don't play blasters. This is Majesty Lord, but you can superior call Wingull Brave, who becomes the retire fodder. The reason why you don't do full bow and blaster javelin is because in this case our pieces in the deck are actually very valuable, so you don't want to just call it the rear guard and then retire it. Like, that's kind of stupid. And so because of that, Marin is going to be that stopgap. You will notice this right line in decks like Bastion Accord, because Accord desperately needs grade 2 gaming, and you can actually resort to this. So if you are okay to spend 1 counter blast, you can actually use this right deck still. I would still strongly suggest it because it's actually still really good. If you can't afford a CB though, you can opt for stuff like the Alden right deck, as in the first Alden, not the DivineZ Alden, the base Alden. The regular Alden right deck, or even Gramgrace's original right deck, that's also a pretty good right deck for CB-less options. Yeah, you still have options in Keter Sanctuary to play for right deck, but personally, because this format is so bloody aggressive and everyone's spamming and calling and rushing a lot, I think Blaster Duck is really helpful because it gives Keter Sanctuary something that most nations don't have, which is early game control. And then of course your boss monster is the Sword Saint Night Dragon Gramgrace. Gramgrace, when you persona ride, your front row and your back row gain 10,000 power, which is really good because that means every column gains 20k, and because Gramgrace actually has a back row attacker, it is really nice. And how do you access this attacker is counterblast 1, so blast 1, draw a card, call a card to a rear guard, to the rear guard circle behind this unit, and that unit gains 10,000 power and can attack from the back row. And then when that unit is finished attacking, you move into the soul and draw a card. So basically speaking, you have a 4th attack guy that you can just call from your hand. You draw 1 and then you call 1, so it's a net 0. They move into the soul and you draw 1 again, so it's another net 0. But you cycle this deck like 2 cards a turn, which is easily one of the fastest cycling bosses I think Keter Sanctuary even has. Like, yeah, I think this is the guy. This is actually the fastest deck moving guy for Keter Sanctuary, and yeah, that's just a unique point of Gramgrace. Giving it 10k to the back row attacker really helps because it does give you the necessary numbers to push over for your 1st or 2nd attacks, and then the rest is history. So, as you can guess, this deck is very heavily on Persona Right, so if you Persona Right, you basically can win. If you don't, you just lose. So, yeah, now that you know the right deck, I think the rest of the deck comes naturally, although not so, but we'll explain. The Great Trees, we obviously need to play 4 copies of Gramgrace, and then 1 copy of the regardless piece of the card. This is to ensure that we actually still get our Persona Rights all up and ready. It's a Persona Right based deck, what do you expect? The rest of our Great Trees is pretty easy. We are playing a 3-3 split of Fernvale as well as Facade. Now, I'm gonna go on a limb here and say that you actually can choose to play 4 copies of Fernvale, because Fernvale is the quintessential Gramgrace support. So you could actually just play 4 Fernvale and 2 Facade, but I'm trying it at 3-3 because I'm really worried about my current meta, which is, has a lot of retire, but most of the time I would actually tell you don't do this. Actually just play 4 copies of Fernvale. Facade, you already know him, he's a card older than the format itself. He can't be retired, and when his attack hits, can't charge 1, soul charge 1. So he's basically just a fat ass that just sits there, gives you free resources every time he threatens a successful attack. The only thing is that he doesn't gain numbers by himself, and he's quite useless. But he's the only source of counter charge this deck has. So definitely Facade is definitely at a 2 off, I would say, minimum 3 off maximum. Yeah, he did get a reprint in Festival Booster 2023 or 4, I believe. I can't remember the year, but he actually does have quite a few reprints. He's not as hard to get as you believe, and most people don't even play him. There was a time where this guy was like $20 a piece, and now he's just yeah, you should definitely consider Facade for your Gramgrace decks, but he's not necessarily like a must play. I just think he's really neat. But the guy you definitely do need though is Fernvale. Fernvale started his life as a magazine promo, and then he became reprinted and reprinted and reprinted and reprinted, and they just never stopped. I don't know why. I wish they stopped, but they just never would. Fernvale is the main target you want to call off Gramgrace. In case that wasn't clear, that is a point I need to repeat just so everyone knows. Because his skill from the back row center column, any other abilities unit attacks, if your opponent's Vanguard is greater or greater, you can Soul Blast 1, discard a card from your hand, choose your Gramgrace Vanguard, it gets 10,000 power and +1 drive. Again, more net 0 nonsense, but giving Gramgrace triple drive and additional 10 for free, virtually, is quite insane. Remember, you move this guy to the soul, right, for Gramgrace's skill, and then you Soul Blast out, so it's costless. You discard 1, you +1 drive. Costless again. Free numbers, free beating, and triple drive is always very threatening, especially given the fact that, if you do live to 10-4, this guy will end your life. So, all in all, this is definitely the main piece of the deck that you want to find. This is one of the guys that you definitely need to get your hands on by turn 3, turn 4, and every subsequent turn as much as possible, because it's just that good. I know Gramgrace has a tournament promo from last year that retires itself as a grade 1 and then chooses a grade 3 to add back to hand, so it's either this guy or Gramgrace himself to loop it. I will say now that it's a very good card, but because of the fact that our meta is not as slow anymore, you don't need to play that. You just need 3 to 4 on him and you're generally good to go. Moving on to our grade 2s. Our grade 2s, obviously we have the Spirit of Darkness, Blaster Dark in our right deck. He's still here, he's still chilling. What is he doing? The rest of our grade 2s are all just where the generic nonsense begins. We play 4 Biscotti, and then we play 4 copies of K-Fault. We play 1 Maple just for tech. We play 2 copies of this guy, and then we play 3 copies of Wisdom of the Beginning. Yeah, Wisdom of the Beginning, long-time fan of this channel will know that I basically built this card. Really nice guy. When it's basically a normal grade 2 order, you just play with 1 Counterblast, draw 2, and then you call 2 cards with the same grade or less equal to your Vanguard. If you can't call 2, you have to discard number up to 2, depending on how many you actually manage to call. Really bad card in terms of, you know, if you're lagging behind, you use this guy, you draw 2, it's 2 triggers, you're just forced to call him. It's not good. But the high roll potential, and that comes with practice and experience, is insane. Like, this card is definitely one of the few cards I'm glad I picked up early, because, you know, yeah, I played this Majesty Lord back in set 8, and that was really an experience of a lifetime, I would say. So yeah, I'm really glad I brought this card to light, and I'm really glad people now finally play this guy. I say 3 to 4, I'm playing at 3 because I'm spotting a lot of grade 3s right now, but the wise man will always play this at 4, because you always want to see this on turn 2. The second you get 2 Counterblast, Blast It Up is online, this is online, the game just steamrolls from there. It's easy, and most people this format give you a lot of Counterblasts early because they are just mindless aggro fucks playing Varga Regress. So if you want to stop them, let them feed you the Counterblast and then push them back once and for all. Show them who's boss. The rest of our grade 2s are pretty self-explanatory. Maple is just yet a one-off, frankly, because I had nothing else to put in the deck. She superior calls herself back when you persona, right? Sorry, when you write a grade 3, that counts for persona, right? So yeah, it's just nice to have her. I would not call this a must play. In fact, you don't even need her. I just tagged her in because she's nice. And I got the original print in the triple rare foiling from set 5. Again, we also have T-Fault. T-Fault, again, is part of the honorary order call. If you don't have her, I'm sorry, you don't really need her actually. But if you own her, congrats. Welcome to the $50 a card club. When placed on a Rearguard Circle, and it's not called by a unit card's ability, Soul Blast 1, and if you play order this turn, look at top 5 cards of your deck, superior call 1 card from among them, or you can actually add an order card from the top 5 to your hand, and then you shuffle the deck. So generally, T-Fault is always a +1 branch extension. It's basically just Latifah, and unlike Latifah, you know, who normally is only played around turn 3 because of, you know, Draconic Kaiser Vermilion, in decks that use grade 2 orders, you generally can play these cards 1 turn earlier, which is why T-Fault is actually a really good branching tool on turn 2 to build your board and swing, and because it's costing a Soul Blast and not a Counter Blast. The second skill is that when this unit attacks, when this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater opponent, if you have 4 more units on the board, it can stand. So it's also a 20k attacker, which is nice. This is probably the second target you want for Gramgrace's skill, but again, it's not as good as Fernvale, of course. That's really about it. Just a great card in general. Blasted Out, we've already talked about him already, so I won't address him again. Biscotti is just more of your Keter generic nonsense. This is your cycler. It's a gun cycler from set 1, and there's a reason why set 1 is being reprinted, because, you know, the set is valuable. When placed on the gunning circle or discarded from your hand for the cost you're right, you can Card Blast 1 or Energy Blast 3 and draw a card. The gun cyclers, as you know, I feel I've mentioned on this channel before, but if I've not, I would say it now. They are really good for stopping cheap aggression. Cheap aggression is what I would define as quick attacks that, you know, only need 5k or more to guard it, and you generally just demand 1 card to guard, 1 card to guard, 1 card to guard, and these are for your smaller numbers. Your gun cyclers, all 6 of them, address this issue perfectly because they basically turn 1 resource, which is either 1 Counter Blast or 3 energy, into 1 additional draw, which means you basically guarded the attack from your resource and you manage to think through your deck. You can also use these for your right deck, especially if you go second. They are really effective, but yeah, that's the only thing. The thing about Gramgrace is that he's very Counter Blast heavy, so most of the time you want to use her for the energy. But I want to just preface this here, if you do manage to get a Facade attack in, or 2 of them, you generally will start to get enough Counter Blast to use her skill wisely. Her second skill is linked to Persona Right, which Gramgrace is all about. And that is, you know, when placed on Rearguard Circle, if you Persona Right this turn, Counter Blast 1 or Energy Blast 3, look at the top 3, and then you can add 1 to hand and then rearrange, if I'm not mistaken. Do note it's top 3. I've seen people at WGP turn around and call the judges and say, "Ooh, top what?" Please read the fucking card. I'm sorry, it's printed there. The number is right there. You can read it. Stop acting stupid. I've seen you before. I know who you are. Stop it. Please. And last but not least, the grade 2 from the Stand Up Deck set, although this is also a tech option if you ask me. You don't really need to have him. When the grade 3 or greater unit in the center column back row attacks, if your Vanguard is Gramgrace, that unit can get a free 5,000 power. Again, this is just to help you chip over magic numbers because most of your attackers are either 13k solos or 10k solos, and you can just chip them to 18 and 15, and then with Gramgrace's skill it goes up to 28 or 25, which generally speaking will demand at least one trigger. Persona rank 2 triggers, you get the idea. The 5k is free, and this skill triggers from anywhere, so it's really helpful. The second skill is its own skill from the front row rearguard circle, so this one's specific. When this unit attacks with a Vanguard of Gramgrace in its name, and 2 or more units from your center column have attacked this turn, color plus 1, and it gains 15,000 power. Again, it demands another trigger because 15,000 power is just nice within that threshold. This guy is really the beatstick.net of this deck because he just gains power everywhere, but numbers will only get you so far, especially in this format where advantage is key. So again, while I like this guy a lot, you don't really need him. In fact, you can just choose to not play him in this deck. But if you are playing in a slower format or format with, I want to say less competent, but that's kind of rude. If you're in a format where people don't really value card advantage, this is definitely a card you want to put in your deck because you can just slam them for higher numbers and they will be completely caught off guard. I mean, how many cards do you know in this format that just gain 15,000 power for fun? Like, you don't, right? But this guy does, so yeah. Our grade 1s are very simple. We play Marin in the right deck. You already know him. I've introduced him just now, so I won't really get into that. And then of course we play for Perfect Guards. Yep. And then we play 2 copies of our Crystal Beast. This is Topaz, I believe. And then of course, to top off every generic pile, the king, the goat, the dog, Sir Gaon. Now, we've already gone through Marin Perfect Guards, so I won't cover them. And I will just go through Topaz first. Topaz is your Keter Sanctuary Crystal Beast. He's pretty important. He's used in a lot of decks like Youthbook. Generally speaking, if your deck burns through a lot of soul, you can play your Crystal Beast, regardless of your nation, by the way. I tried to say that in my Vermilion deck profiles, but somehow nobody caught that point. I don't know why, but I'll say it again in case nobody got me. You can play a Crystal Beast in decks that use a lot of Soul Blast. Okay, when placed on the rearguard circle or the guardian circle, you can remove 2 cards that came from your right deck, and then you get one of these 2 effects depending on where it's called. If it's the rearguard circle, you just top 5 and Superior Call 1. If it's a guardian circle, it's a 20k shield. No matter how you spin it, the Crystal Beasts are pretty fun cards defensively and offensively, especially for Keter, because this is one of the few offensive effects you actually do want. But other than that, it's nice. I'm playing it as a 2-off because, let's be realistic, you only play the Crystal Beast at 2-off, and I just think this was really neat to play Gramgrace because he burns through his soul like nobody's problem. So yeah, I might as well just use the extra soul for some mileage. Flip Blaster that off and I get more shit. Selgaon is the generic of generics. You already know his skill. The only reason why Selgaon is here is just because he's costless. He doesn't cost CB, SB, EB, nothing. And he works really well with the order because he's actually meant to be order support, but most people don't even know that. So now you guys do. But yeah, that's really about it. I won't even tell you skill, you should know it by now. Do you need to play Selgaon? Is that? No. But is it nice? Yes. Should you go out of your way to spend money for this guy? Maybe not. Last but not least, our grade 0s. Our grade 0s, we have Wingard Brave as our starter. You already know him. I introduced him to you just now. He's needed because, like I said, the right deck requires you to have his name starter. So, yeah. 4 heals, 3 effect fronts because we do need more numbers just to slam them into oblivion. 8 crits. And then, of course, a 9th crit in the form of the Blue Over Trigger. Because Gramgrace does cycle through his soul and stuff a lot, I previously mentioned that a lot of your key grade 3s do end up in the drop zone. Instead of relying on a grade 1 promo, why not just use the over trigger and just add it back? It generally gives you the same amount, or if not greater amount, of in-game advantage to just cycle it naturally because Gramgrace burns through this deck so fast. Your rate of pulling the over trigger is very fast. As someone did say, deck thinning is deck winning. And that will wrap it up for my Gramgrace deck profile for DivineZ. I personally did not expect to have so much fun playing this deck, especially when, this deck doesn't have support. I know a lot of my DivineZ recaps on this channel, I tend to emphasize on modern support. But strangely, this guy is just using generics and completely winning. Is this a sign that Keter generics are too strong? Maybe. But at the same time, I do feel this is one of the cheapest and most fun ways to play Keter Pao. Especially if you're first and foremost already a fan of Yuki Ichidoji or their days, you generally will have grown an affinity for this guy, and he's just a fun budget boss monster. You guys know Vajula, you guys clearly love him. You guys know stuff like, the previous protects of random spin-offs like Gandiva. This is also one of them, and I'm still shocked that most people just completely forgot. When he was first reviewed in DBT08, this was big shit back then, because this was our first cheap boss that you could build. Nowadays, we take that for granted because we get Korokoro magazine promos, we get random rares as bosses, we get, just a hell lot of stuff that you didn't expect back in the year 2022. But now we do, and it's very important that we look back and see the forebears of what created these trends, right? A lot of these things that we take in modern card support, modern card design for granted, we need to go back and see how they started off. And honestly, I do wish Gramgrace does get DivineZ support. I do believe he deserves it. If Favnil manages to get so many good commons and rares from the last two sets, I don't think it's completely impossible for Bushiroad to give this guy 1 to 2 cards of direct support in DZBT04. Will they do it? Probably not, but it's a man can hope, right? When I did that Virina deck profile for DBT08, nobody expected that they would print Stragaglio, right? So I'm allowed to hope. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.